Good afternoon, everyone. We are tracking snow right now at noon. You can see it there on your screen coming towards our area. It could impact your evening commute. First, we want to give you a live look outside. This is what the picture looks like right now. Sean is joining us to talk about the timing of the snow. And like we mentioned, Sean, it's going to impact some people.
Yeah, it depends on your location. If you're in Bloomington and Columbus, you don't have to really worry about this.
Good.
Lafayette, Hamilton County, north side of Marion County, might be just enough, just enough here. Let's show you what's going on. And I will tell you right off the bat, it's not nearly as bad as the radar looks. A lot of what you're seeing, in fact, most of what you're seeing is way up in the atmosphere. It's not reaching the ground. It's just too dry. Now, the difference compared to yesterday, though, is our setup is much colder, and that's why it's going to take even just a little bit of snow. So again, you were looking at radar, and it looked like it was snowing crazy around Terre Haute. This is ground truth, okay? So that's I-70 near Terre Haute. Everything on radar elevated. Same thing for here in Indy. Look at the humidity is at 47%. So that lower layer of air near the ground, still very dry. 19 with a wind chill of 8. So it is a stinger of a day for us here. I mentioned the much colder setup. That is going to be key because even just a little bit of light snow is going to be very impactful. Okay, so by the time we get toward 3 and 4 o'clock, we're going to start to see this reaching the ground here. Now, it won't be very widespread from north to south, but within this zone, we're going to get a steady snow for several hours falling onto ground that's much colder than yesterday. So we say impactful snow, and what we're talking about here is Cicero, Tipton, Lafayette, ½ inch to 1.5 inches. Light to maybe as much as a ½ inch on the north side. Okay, we'll get you ready for that commute and a warmer, wet weekend ahead in the forecast.
All right, thank you, Sean. We want to make sure that you have our live Doppler 13 weather app. You can use that interactive radar to track this snow that's approaching and also access our latest forecast blogs. Remember, this is a free download in your phone's app store. Today, dozens of people are gathering at the State House, signing a letter calling for Governor Holcomb to halt executions. Now, this comes less than a week before Indiana could see its first death penalty execution in 15 years. This is a hot-button issue that has sparked multiple protests and debates over Joseph Corcoran's capital punishment. This demonstration taking place at the State House just last month. And attorneys for Corcoran, they're also fighting to save him from the death penalty, now turning to federal court to do so. The Indiana man is scheduled to die by lethal injection next Wednesday. His attorneys claim that he is seriously mentally ill and unable to understand the severity of his crimes. But barring a late reprieve from the governor or the courts, Indiana is prepared to use lethal injection once again to carry out this death sentence. Our Rich Nye has followed Indiana's death penalty issues for years and explains where the state is headed now with capital punishment.
Indiana's last execution happened on December 11, 2009. Matthew Wrinkles died by lethal injection for killing his estranged wife and 2 other people in Evansville in 1994. 8 men currently sit on Indiana's death row, but there have been no executions for 15 years because the Department of Correction could not acquire the drugs needed for lethal injection. That changed in June.
I wanted to know where the Department of Corrections got the drugs from. And then want to know the cocktail that they were actually using, and does it meet 8th Amendment standards for violating cruel and unusual punishment.
Indianapolis attorney Eric Koselke has represented more than 30 defendants in state and federal death penalty cases.
I'm personally very demoralized. I didn't know whether we would ever have another execution or not, quite frankly. But the fact I spent my whole career going on 40 years this coming June, basically fighting the death penalty, believing it's wrong.
Joseph Corcoran killed 4 men in Fort Wayne in 1997, including his brother and future brother-in-law. His attorneys argue that he is mentally ill and should not be executed. Meantime, prosecutors are seeking the death penalty in 3 pending cases in central Indiana. Carl Boards II, charged with killing Elwood police officer Noah Shanavez. Orlando Mitchell, charged with killing Marion County Deputy John Durham. and Delani Rogers, charged with the murders of 2 men and shooting 2 more outside a Plainfield motel.
These are people that nobody even knew who they were for the most part until the death penalty is filed, and then they become somewhat of a star.
And that was our Rich Nye reporting. After the execution of Joseph Corcoran, the Indiana Attorney General will ask for an execution date for Benjamin Ritchie. He shot and killed Beech Grove police officer Bill Toney back in 2000. IMPD officers just announced the arrest of a young teen accused in an attempted armed robbery. Police say a woman told them the teen approached her last Saturday near 38th and Meridian, then pointed a gun at her, demanding her wallet and her phone, but took off when she said she didn't have anything. He was taken into custody nearby and transported to the Juvenile Detention Center. The prosecutor's office is now deciding whether the teen will face formal charges. And one man is now working to help reduce the amount of youth violence we see here in Indy and keep more kids safe. Ralph Durrett Jr. is the Chief Violence Prevention Officer in Indy. He grew up here and says he's committed to keeping young people away from crime. Just this week, 4 kids were arrested after leading police on a chase in a stolen car. We see this kind of thing all too often, and Durrett tells 13 News his job is less about the actual crimes and more about preventing them in the first place. That is something he says will take an entire community.
There's an African proverb that says that many hands make light work. We can look at Ralph, we can look at Mayor Hogshead, we can look at IMPD, but it's really that looking yourself in the mirror.
And Durrett works through the city's Office of Public Health and Safety to make this kind of youth outreach happen. The State Board of Education is moving forward with a new rule to change high school diploma requirements. Now, this comes as the state sees a decline in students graduating. Under this proposal, students would need to earn a base requirement of 42 credits to graduate versus the traditional 40. And they will also have the chance to earn what's called readiness seals, uniquely aligned to their career path. Those seals can be in college prep, the workforce, or military enlistment.
To make sure that student is seizing the opportunity to explore their unique interests, whether they want to be a journalist or an engineer or a teacher, that they can actually experience it and work towards getting there.
Attorney General Todd Verkita now has 45 days to look over and approve this new diploma rule. It would then go to the governor for final approval. Today, we are expected to hear from Colts players about their prep for the Broncos on Sunday. The Colts are coming off a bye week, and this banged-up team needed time to get healthy. Colts wide receiver Josh Downs was at practice yesterday, and center Ryan Kelly was designated for return. It's a good thing because the Colts will need all the help they can get to keep their playoff hopes alive. Now, we already spoke with head coach Shane Steichen about Sunday's game in Denver being a must-win.
I think it's a part of it. Like the mindset is like every game's big, right? They're big, but now they're getting bigger in December. And I think the guys know the magnitude of this football game. I mean, like you said, it's like, do we look at standings? They see it. Everyone knows, what's at stake. So we got to go handle our business.
I think, since our record wasn't the best a few weeks ago, I think every game was a playoff game, thinking about it that way, because we don't want to lose anymore. We want to continue to win out. So that's our plan. We're not necessarily thinking about the playoffs. We know that's at stake, but that's not really on our mind. We're just trying to take it one game at a time and win.
And kickoff between the Colts and Broncos is at 4:25 Sunday in Denver. Our Dave Calabro is talking with players today about their practice and preparation. He will bring you what they have to say later today on 13 News at 4.